Yes, I am the Space Quest historian, and tonight's show is going to be a special one. I guess you can kind of tell. Oh, that was a close one. In fact, I'm not even sure this will ever really come out. If you haven't been keeping up with recent events, here's a quick recap in case this is the last you'll ever hear from me. The cybernetic manifestation of Cedric the Owl infested my Steve butt, or infected, I suppose, really, and it turns out he's evil as all balls. To start off with, this Cyber Cedric entity was imprisoned in my computer system, but then he broke free and started terrorizing my apartments, and then he got loose into the real world, and, well, long story short, my country is now embroiled in a full-scale, all-out war against him. So, I'm recording this episode whilst cowering in the local bomb shelter. Well, that's a lie, actually. I only said that so you wouldn't worry, but you should worry. You should all worry. A lot. I actually don't know where the local bomb shelter is, or if we even have one, so I just retreated to the laundry room below my apartment complex, where I've now been hiding out for the past 2 weeks or so, feeding on rats and spiders and other insects, and, well, that's a lie too. Let me explain. See, you're probably wondering how this episode is even coming out, if it is coming out. Well, since Cyber Cedric has cut off all electricity in the region, we were without power, obviously, and it gets really, really dark down here. So, when we took shelter down here, and by we, I mean me and a friend of mine, he hooked up a car battery to give us the very basics of power, enough to keep this laptop charged and the coffee machine running, basically. But he sadly died from his valiant efforts when he plugged in the coffee machine because, well, it turns out that it was under Cyber Cedric's control, so it basically shocked him to hell. So, see, no appliances or electrical equipment are safe, and yeah, so he sadly passed away. And, you know, you do get sick of spiders and rats after a while, so, yeah. You know, he doesn't taste bad, actually. Maybe that's a bit more than you wanted to hear, but I don't care. My nerves are actually a bit frazzled, and I feel really guilty for having unleashed this scourge of evil upon the world. So now I'm using the last of the car battery's power to record and transmit this podcast because, well, the people need to know. They need to hear that it's all my fault, and I feel terrible. No, wait, that's a lie, too. It's actually all Cyber Cedric's fault. So screw him. I hope he rots, or rusts, or whatever a malignant cybernetic force does. I'd say I hope his file system corrupts or something, but that's probably already what happened. And actually, I don't even know what happened. I didn't bother to find out where he came from or why he turned so evil. It actually never occurred me to ask. I just wanted to get rid of him. So, well, screw it. I'm wasting precious time here. Also perfectly precious time. I'm wasting time here, and I'm rambling. I just want to tell you what we've got on the show tonight, and I've tried to fill it with as much joy and merriment as I could find, because I think that's what the world needs right now. So, for our special guest segment, we've got not one, not two, but 3 of the developers of Darkside Detective: Dave McCabe, Tracey McCabe, and Paul Conway. And we've also got more crowdfunding tips from Serena Nelson, and we've also got more music talk from the 3 Grandmasters, James Mulvale, Brandon Blume, and Ken Allen. And I'm sorry this introduction is so short, but I just want to get all of this out of the way so I can hopefully die in peace, knowing that I at least brought a final smile to the world.
What day is it?
Wednesday.
What year? Wait. Who's wet?
No, Wednesday, not wetness. Never mind. Who are you, and why are you dressed like something out of Ghostbusters?
Who am I? Do you even have to ask? Why, you're in the presence of the adventurer who brought home the 3 wayward treasures.
And you kind of remind me of someone.
The conqueror of the strange land of Kalima.
I've definitely seen your face somewhere.
The bane of the evil wizard Mordak.
Wait, I got it.
Slayer of Yetis.
You know, I know just who you are.
My name, good sir, is...
Patrick Swayze.
No, King Graham of Daventry.
You sure? You really look an awful lot like Patrick Swayze.
I get that a lot. If only I had a gold coin every time Valanice asked me to take pottery lessons.
Yeah, okay. King Graham of Daventry. Got it. Wait a minute. Graham? Daventry? What, you're telling me you're the guy from King's Quest, right?
The very same. And you appear to be the Space Quest historian. I was afraid I had arrived at the wrong place.
Yeah, I am, but what the hell are you doing here? And, again, what's with the weird-ass getup?
I have come here in search of the one who has wrought all this destruction upon your land. The creature you might know as Cyber Cedric. Is that name at all familiar to you?
Is it ever? Please, tell me you've come to off that little prick.
That is more or less what I mean to do, choice of words aside. But I'm afraid it won't be easy. I need to gather a bit of strength first. He won't surrender without a fight.
Fair enough. Have a seat, I guess.
Thanks. Say, your friend here is awfully quiet.
Oh, well, he's just taking a little nap in the...
He's missing an arm.
Just ignore him for now. So, what exactly is the deal with Cyber Cedric?
That, my freakishly tall friend, is a long story. But you look like you've got time.
Thank you.
To understand the nature of Cyber Cedric, I have to tell you how it all began. One fateful day, I was summoned to the castle by the noble King Edward, who had put forth a call for all the bravest knights of Daventry.
Well, I think I know this bit. Can we...
The king sought the fabled 3 treasures of Daventry: the magic mirror, the magic shield, and the magic chest.
Yeah, but
Together, they would restore glory to the kingdom. Once I had received my mission, I went straight to the east, where I stumbled upon, I think it was a goat. Oh, maybe that was to the west. It was either
well, while King Graham, who really does look a lot like Patrick Swayze, regales me with his tales of yore, maybe we should check in with Serena Nelson for more crowdfunding tips. So, take it away, Serena.
There was at least a dragon or two. I don't remember anymore.
Welcome to the newest installment of Serena's Kickstarter Corner. Last time I talked about general communication tips and how it's important to stay in touch with your fan base. Today, however, I want to delve deeper into actually listening to backer feedback and taking their suggestions and criticisms to heart. There is an old adage that says you can please some of the people all of the time, you can please all of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. Which means that even though you should listen and take notes, you should also take into account that you can and can't do while balancing what potential players want in the context of your game. In the case of adventure games, we generally want the same things. We all want a good story, interesting characters, enough puzzles to challenge us, but not want to pull our hair out, among other things. However, what we want exactly differs from person to person. Thankfully, most of the time, comments tend to go towards the more generalized areas than anything really specific. When I talk about listening to feedback, at least during your campaign's funding process, it's generally what we want to see as stretch goals, stuff we want to see shown off, such as screenshots, gameplay videos, concept art, etc., and ways to make your pitch and reward tiers better. Sometimes getting feedback starts out long before even putting together your pitch video and text. If you have an established fan base already, it's a good idea to pull some of them. See what they think should be offered and shown right out of the gate. Even better is to share the preview page with others and get their suggestions as to how to make it look just that much sexier. I've seen bland to mediocre pre-pitches, when given the preview link, manage to pump out something exciting and enticing when they finally hit the launch button. It's those developers that ask for help even beforehand that tend to do much better than if they just toss something up and hope something stuck. Even an already strong pitch can be improved upon with some critique, especially if said person has had experience either running a campaign or has had more than a few projects under their belts already. Your fans don't even necessarily have to be crowdfunding savvy to help before, during, and long after the campaign ends. They just need to develop the same passion for your game as you do. Maybe something sticks out for them that makes no sense or could be moved around to read better. You don't need a degree in Kickstarter to offer up that sort of advice. Or someone like myself, who looks at both content and layout, isn't valuable to get our opinion. Perhaps you're missing an About Us section, or it's too far down for people to start caring. Or maybe you need to expand upon the story or gameplay a bit more to make people salivate. Would it be better to have quotes closer to the top, or are they better off near the bottom? This is generally advice that I personally give, and most tend to listen to it, and others who are willing to take the time to help out. But what about during the campaign itself, you might ask? Well, it's basically more of the same, but on a much larger scale. You're also juggling running everything on top of making changes to your pitch here and there. Not to mention you might be working on development of your game at the same time. As I had mentioned before, running a Kickstarter campaign is a full-time job. This is why. Stay in touch and listen to what people have to say, and not just backers. See what the press is saying about your game and or campaign. Make changes you think might benefit you more. If you just sit back and do nothing, though, you're almost guaranteed to be destined for failure. After all, who wants to back a project where the developer refuses to listen to their earliest adopters? Being given the cold shoulder is just as bad as arguing and being defensive with someone who disagrees with your methods. I've seen both happen on too many occasions and I've just left a real sour taste in my mouth. I had even personally pulled out on an otherwise solid concept because those running their Kickstarter just couldn't take a little heat. I won't name names here, but communication and listening will always help your reputation, while being defensive or silent will do nothing but hurt it. That's not to say that you should take everything to heart and do whatever you can to appease everyone. You just can't do that, especially in today's online community. Last time, I had mentioned a handful of projects that just wouldn't listen to their backers, only to have a lot of people either lose faith or to just pull their pledge, even when they knew that the campaign wouldn't get funded at all. In the case of Precinct and 7th Guest 3, a lot of us who were veterans of crowdfunding, even back then, begged and pleaded for Jim Walls, Robert Lindsay, and Rob Landeros to listen to us because there were too many problems with the pitch and what they were offering and promising. Both of these were great ideas and their concepts certainly resonated with a lot of us. But in the end, those of us who were asking the hard questions and trying to give honest feedback had found our voices falling on deaf ears. While I didn't personally pull my pledge to both, I had seriously considered it. Similarly, not even talking to backers is an even worse insult. In the case of both of the attempts to get the Sierra documentary off the ground, Molotov Angel was silent the entire time for both, while those of us who wanted to see it become real raged to the point where not only failed miserably, but most of us left disgusted. There are other campaigns that have done similar things to the above that made me wonder if they even serious about their attempt to get their game off the ground or not. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that you should take commentary to heart. Listen to both backers and fans, but don't bend over backwards to make everyone happy. At the same time, don't rage back or go silent because someone's trying to help you. Most of your backers are there because they believe in your vision and they want to be treated with respect, if not part of the process. Treat them right and they'll treat you right. Maybe even going above and beyond to get the word out. Which is a topic for next time.
And with one last deafening roar from its mighty engine, the backhoe finally broke.
That was actually pretty damn good. I hadn't expected space unicorns to turn up.
Nor had I, my friend. Nor had I.
So about Cyber Cedric.
Ah, yes. Well, you'll recall how even I felt exasperated about Cedric. I know the poor thing always meant well, but at times it felt like Crispin had only sent him along to annoy me, to pose a hindrance to my quest.
Ah, you can say that again.
And this is where the root of the problem lies. I was not the only one to think that way, nor you. The people of Serenia and Daventry hated Cedric. groaning whenever he spoke and rolling their eyes at him. More importantly, as did the ones from the other side, the players in front of their screens. By now you must have realized that I am aware I am but a character in one of your computer games. Well, think of players as benign puppet masters pushing you towards your goal, encouraging you to endure the hardship and supporting you when you fail. A sort of symbiosis, to speak. That was my reality. Cedric's reality was less rewarding. The poor thing felt every frustrated click. He heard every angry complaint. A shiver went through his plumage whenever someone on the other side derided him for exclaiming a snake was poisonous rather than venomous. His monocle stained by his tears to be rejected like that simply for playing his part. It hurt him in ways you and I cannot imagine.
Wow, but that is deep, man. I never really thought of it that way.
Neither had I. But then it happened.
What?
I'm suddenly reminded I've traveled long and I am hungry. Do you have a morsel of bread to share? Perhaps even a scrap of meat?
Yeah. Well, you can do what I've been doing for the past couple of weeks and help yourselves to a few morsels of my late friend there.
Are you suggesting? No.
Just think of it as his contribution to putting an end to this sorry mess.
No.
It's not like he's doing much else right now.
No.
It tastes like chicken.
Well, I'm not too sure about this. Though I am pretty hungry. Well, okay. Maybe just a finger or something. Let's see what I can pry loose here.
And while good King Graham of Daventry is Donner partying like it's 1846, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say, let's listen to more of our music talk with Ken Allen, Brandon Blume, and James Mulvale. Okay, so you're being with trackers, you're intimately familiar with sampling, and when I asked this question the last time, I was talking about when I started out tracking. First off, I just stole samples from other modules, but then I sort of got into sampling my own stuff, except I had nothing really interesting to sample. So I, would tap on my desk and I would, smack my kid brother around and sample that. And the weirdest thing I did was sampling my CD-ROM drive opening and closing, because it was one of those spring-loaded CD-ROM drives, so it made this fantastic clacking sound when it opened. And I created like a bass drum and a snare drum out of that. So Brandon, what's the weirdest sampling you've done on your own that has somehow made it into a song?
I don't think I've ever done any sampling that's actually made it into a song. I've tried and failed miserably, and I was never good at it. I always stole from other people's mods when I tracked until I stopped tracking, so I can't take any.
Okay, so then of course you moved on to MIDI and sequencers and then further into the digital realm that we exist in today with VSTs and such. And how did you transition into that?
It came about, I guess, with fooling around with game MIDIs and MIDI files that people would make of popular songs and movie themes and TV shows and stuff. I'd like download a ton of them. And then I just liked opening them up and messing with them. And it led to me discovering a program called, what was it called? Music Sculptor, which was later renamed to Presto Arranger. And it was a cool free program, limited, but it had no piano roll. But what it did have was a virtual keyboard on the screen that you could play on your computer keyboard. So that's how I started performing on my computer keyboard. And so it just kind of led from there, I guess, until I found an old version of Cakewalk for Windows 3.1, and then got into Sonar, and I'm still using Sonar. I think I started with version 4, and now I'm on, well, the latest one, whatever the latest one is, Platinum or whatever.
Oh, cool. So James, what did you start out with?
as composing, I remember. My mum will tell me, or tell anybody, that I was making up little bits of music from when I was very young. I used to have this thing called a little toy called a Major Morgan, which is a little toy soldier with all these buttons on it, and you used to put a little piece of paper in, or a card, and it was like fruit and shapes, geometric shapes. So you'd play a tune via all these shapes. So it would be like circle, circle, square, square, star, star, circle, twinkle, twinkle, that sort of thing. Apparently I was playing things that weren't on the cards, and was like, what card's that? And I was like, I don't know. So I don't know. I started on Major Morgan when I was probably like 6 or 7.
So you learned to program at a very young age.
And they were like, oh, you should go and do piano lessons. So I went and did some piano lessons and hated it. I always got booted out because I refused to learn to read. I still can't read music. So you put a score in front of me, I'm like, what? But I know what all the notes are, but I can't read it. I can work it out. It will take me all day to work out a sheet of music. But I can play it. I can play it by ear. So they were like, when I went to piano lessons, they were like, okay, read the dots, and I was like, I can't. And then I was like, well, it goes like this, and I was like, well, you mean like this? So I played back to them, and they got really frustrated and angry with me. I'm like, well, I can't read it. It's not. So I got booted out of there. So I absolutely hated music then for years. Until I was probably about 12 or 13, and I got a guitar for my birthday. And then it all started again. I was like, oh, I actually quite enjoy this now. And then, I don't know, I wrote little songs with, like, crappy band when I was like 15, 16.
Oh, did you like... Yeah, did you like playing bands as a teenager or in college?
Oh, yeah, really bad bands. Like, really bad. I wanted to be, like, a cross between Radiohead and the Manic Street Preachers and Soundgarden, and there's like all this like I used to sing. I used to sound like I was shitting a brick. Just like awful stuff.
I know my share of all the bands.
And I went to university and studied composition because it was like, well, I've always been good at melodies, but like not necessarily lyrics. I was fucking awful at lyrics. So I was like, let's go down the melody route. So I took some position, and I kind of just improved and listened to tons of different music and tried not to be too biased about it.
Okay, sorry, Ken. I think you're like breathing into the microphone. It's kind of creating this this weird waves crashing into the beach kind of effect.
I thought it was kind of sensual.
Well, it is bringing a certain charm to the call. I will not deny that. I'm sorry. So when did you move on from just playing the guitar in your bedroom and rehearsal spaces and all that to sequencing and scoring and all that?
Probably when I was about 18 or 19. I got this little program my friend got. It must have been 95 because I just bought a PC with Windows 95 on it, and my buddy gave me a piece of free software that came with his keyboard, called Sound Studio Gold or something like Evolution Gold or something like that, and it came with a bunch of MIDIs, and it was like there was this MIDI for what track was it? Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve. You know that song? There's a MIDI. Someone had recreated this song in MIDI form, and it was like, wow, that it doesn't sound right, but it doesn't sound too bad either. And I was like, you can do apart from the vocal line, it kind of sounded convincing. And I kind of got hooked on that sort of stuff, and I was looking around for stuff, and I ended up actually making a bunch of Radiohead MIDIs from OK Computer. And they're still about on the internet. If you look up Radiohead MIDI and my name, there's like some really old pages off from AOL that have got like, shit on there. I think I didn't do Paranoid Android. I did like some of the other ones. I did Creep. I did Street Spirit and a bunch of different Radiohead MIDIs. And I was like, I my job was to recreate. Well, not a job, but I was like, challenge myself to recreate these songs. So how can I make it sound like that? So that kind of taught me how to sequence, is by just trying to recreate the songs I knew by ear.
See, yeah, I tried to recreate a number of Gary Newman songs because I feel kind of a kinship with Gary Newman because he stumbled across a synthesizer when he was in a recording studio, and he just pressed a key and it made this booming sound, and he just went, "Woo! I gotta use this," even though he couldn't play it for crap. And my kinship with him is also that I just sit down in front of a keyboard and just mash buttons until something awesome comes out.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
So I did try to recreate some of his, because all of his songs go in the key of D, because it's very nicely centered on the keyboard. So yeah, I know all about that. But then most of the time when I try and sit down, I try to do something on my own, because I can't play well enough to follow along other people's music. So yeah, much commendment on that one.
I usually write everything in C major because there's no black notes involved, and then and then I'll move it. I'll transpose it just to be fancy. I'm just like, oh, I finished it. Now I'll move it up to E flat, and they were like, yeah, look at that.
I quite like F minor, again, because you don't have to hit any of the black keys, and it sounds nicely depressing. Speaking of Radiohead and Manic Street Preachers and all that.
Yeah. D minor was the saddest of all keys.
Yeah, it actually is. But it's so hard for me to play, because every time you want to go somewhere from a D minor or a D major, you always have to sort of scrunch your hand up on the keyboard. Where am I going with this? I'm sorry, I'm getting derailed.
Derailed.
Yeah. Okay, so Ken, when you started playing the French horn in I'm guessing like school bands, and you said you auditioned for the military band and such, when did you get into sequencing and such?
Well, I have a story I told last time that kind of predates sequencing and MIDI. There was a magazine called Popular Electronics, and they were having a contest for people who could create music by using sound effects from video games. And I was working at a radio station at the time. I had access to fairly high-end recording equipment. So I borrowed a friend's Atari 2600 and every game I could get my hands on. And I just plugged in the recorder to the audio out of the TV and just played like 8 hours of video games, trying to get all the different sound effects I could get together. And then that weekend I went to the radio station and sat down with the recording and a physical razor blade and cutting block, and putting 1/4-inch tape into the cutting block and finding it where it was on the tape, marking it with a little wax pencil, and then pulling that part out, cutting out the little part that had the sound effect, taping the tape back together again so that I could still play it in one continuous length. And then I had these collections of little pieces of tape that I had of all the different sound effects, and I had to label them so that they were on a piece of paper, and on the piece of paper was written the word boom or high pitch or and I kept track of those. And after I had about a minute and a half worth of what I thought would be a piece of music, then I pieced it all together into a rhythm and the melodies and all this stuff. And it took me 2 full days to put together a minute and a half worth of music, spliced together, 1/4-inch recording tape, recorded one sound effect at a time to get it in the rhythm. I got a feel for how far I could space things apart on the 1/4-inch magnetic tape, to get the rhythm I needed. And so as long as I kept it, I had like a little ruler, and as long as I kept things fairly spaced out evenly on the ruler, I knew that my rhythms would be right. This goes back, this is like before anybody thought of doing anything with tracking.
That's old school sample tracking.
It's probably where the term tracking came from. I was actually using a reel-to-reel track, 2-track audio tape, but I submitted that thing. I had it on. I had the whole thing on reel-to-reel, and I mixed it down to cassette tape, sent it in, and waited. I expected to win because I knew I spent so much time on this. And I didn't win. Somebody cheated by recording. They had an Apple II computer with a bunch of games on it, and they were able to do that in the computer, and they won. And I was very, very sad. But that's my first experience with sequencing and tracking. Very much similar to what you guys are describing, but I did it old school. Really old school.
Well, a lot of glue and a lot of fingers crossed that you're keeping in time and such.
Exactly.
You still have a copy of that, Ken? That'd be awesome to hear.
I doubt it.
Really go digging in that box.
Well, let's see. I don't think I made a second cassette recording, and I did keep the reel-to-reel tape for a long time. But yeah, who's got that kind of equipment these days?
We need to get Ken a reel-to-reel tape machine so he can dig out that old tape and digitize it and put it up for the world to hear.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, okay. well, when I'm imagining it, it sounds awesome.
Well, just imagine all the different sound effects from the Atari 2600 and try to imagine putting those in a sequence that would make some semblance of a piece of music,
Well, that reminds me of people who took sound effects from like Windows 95 and Windows 98 system sounds and tracked them into a song out of the sound effects.
Well, actually, it reminds me of chiptune style, which is quite popular even these days. But it was also quite popular when Brandon and I were doing trackers in the early 90s. People would take a 1 millisecond square wave sample and just loop it so it became this continuous sound, and then do all sorts of crazy nonsense to it. Making modules that were like 4 kilobytes in size or 6 kilobytes in size and have an entire thing going there. Chiptune music, but you did chiptune before it was cool.
Speaking of trackers, I learned about it fairly late. I learned about them in the mid 90s, and I'm just amazed at the amount of music that was produced in that style and the quality of the tracks that came out of that particular genre. Amazing stuff.
Well, it is kind of dependent on the quality of samples that you have, because a tracker will basically eat anything. It'll eat anything from the lowest 8 kilohertz 8-bit sample sound to 44 kilohertz 16-bit sound. So yeah, it depends on it depends on the sample quality you've got, and
not necessarily though, because a good tracker and especially a good sampler could take a couple waves of a certain sound and turn it into like 15 different instruments and throw tracking effects on it, and it becomes this wonderful symphonic, beautiful, amazing piece of programming.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Sounds amazing.
That's right. I mean, and that's also what the chiptune artists do, because some people can take like a single chip sample and turn it into bass drum, snare drum, bass guitar, and lead and everything.
Absolutely.
Weird people.
I must confess, this is not too bad. I could get used to this.
I know you said you were hungry, but jeez Louise, leave some for me, will you?
Sorry. If I succeed in defeating Cyber Cedric, your companion here should be able to rest in peace, at least.
Yeah, Cyber Cedric. You were about to wrap up that whole story, weren't you?
Yes. Cedric broke out. I still have no idea how he found the strength to do it. It took all of Crispin's power to send me here, but Cedric broke out of the game, On millions of computers at once, it must have been his anger, he sucked every transistor dry, absorbed every string of code, harnessed the power of every circuit, until, finally, a monster emerged.
Well, you're not saying...
I'm afraid I am. The truth is that Cyber Cedric is Cedric, corrupted and twisted by all the scorn and malice he has had to endure for decades. He seeks revenge, and he no longer cares how he gets his comeuppance. In his world, you have all contributed to his creation, and he longs only for your destruction. He can't be bargained with, he can't be reasoned with, he doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and he absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are all dead. A death you have brought upon yourselves.
Dude, don't you think that's a little harsh?
Is it? Have you ever felt unloved but for a moment? Multiply that 1,000-fold and tell me how you feel. I doubt it's a coincidence that Cyber Cedric emerged in your Steve bot, of all the places he could have chosen to manifest. Of all the damning voices that cut into him, yours hurt the most. He wants you to be his first victim, Space Quest historian, and he will do everything he can to see that happen.
Holy balls of Beelzebub. You know what? This sure as hell wasn't what I planned for when I started this season. You know what? I'm gonna need to collect my thoughts here for a bit.
Then, you won't mind if I help myself to a few more bites here? It would be a shame to let this unlucky fellow go to waste.
Oh, you do that. I have lost my appetite now. Well, I suppose we might as well get this out of the way while I'm having a little think here. You know what, I wasn't going to do this, but now I, kind of feel that things are starting to take a very weird turn around here.
You haven't brought any ketchup with you, have you?
Ketchup? Look around you. What do you think? All right, anyway, let's just pop this cassette in for what is hopefully the last time and listen to what Pete has to say. I don't even know why I brought my cassette player, but, well, might as well now, so...
This really is the collection that sells itself. So, you might be thinking, hey, if that's so, why is it that A, you're still running these advertisements after 6 weeks, and B, I haven't bought a copy yet? Good points all. But let me remind you of something. This is the only paying gig I have at the moment. So, would you do me a solid? A few of you? Any of you? Would you just throw this guy a bone? Buy a copy. Keep this train a-rollin'. I have these little things that come through the mail each month. You know what they're called? Bills, dear listener, bills. My wife is starting to get on my case, too.
Why haven't you got an actual job yet? I can't keep paying for everything. You're no Gary Owens. Just let this adolescent dream die and grow the f*** up.
No, Janet, I'm not Gary Owens. No one is, and no one will be. But I can carve out my own little niche if I had support from the one person who is supposed to be there for me. How's your sister, by the way? Still f***ing that wedding singer? Why do you support their dreams, Janet? Huh? Explain that to me. You bitch. We joined Pete on Disk 11, Windows 98. Change must always be resisted. Here he tells us why Priapic chose to move on from, quote, original content in the late 90s.
The main problem I had with Windows 98 was philosophical. If a 69 is a bitch sucking a c*** while he licks her c***, then 98 is a disgruntled wife turning her back on her fat husband. That just isn't sexy, mate. Not even I can get a chub to that. But I also resented having to upgrade my PC so soon after having made the leap from DOS 6.0 to Windows 95. I mean, who has time for that shit? Seriously. Most importantly though, it meant that our old games didn't necessarily run on modern computers. Of course, they didn't necessarily run on old computers either, thanks to our programming department's deliberate sabotage of the code. Ingrates. They did it, and this is what they say anyway, they did it because I had forced them to work in the boiler room in 115-degree heat in July for 18 hours a day. And that I refused to recognise their union, apparently. And 2 of them died. But if the courts can exonerate me, I don't see why they couldn't. Where was I? Oh, yeah, so, we had new computers which made new and wonderful noises. And we had some old games that no longer, or never, worked. And we also had a depleted coding team due to natural wastage. That's the HR term, innit? Natural wastage. Look it up. Now, I would absolutely love to be able to take credit for what we did next, but actually I got the idea from Sierra. See, we took all of our old games and made them new. You know, we took the ones that were more likely, but not guaranteed to work on old machines, and we did them up. Of course, they weren't guaranteed to work on new machines either. None of our games were guaranteed. Not a single one of our boxes says that the game will work on your PC. And, you know, it's not my problem. It's not my job to get my software to work on your computer. No refunds, fuck off. Anyway, we took the ones that were more likely to work on modern machines and we gave them a lick of paint. Well, old Ken Williams was all over that shit well before us. Remakes of Space Quest 1, King's Quest 1, other Quests 1s, all with VGA resolution for more modern spec machines. There's somewhat of a divided opinion on Space Quest 1 VGA. Some love the B-movie aesthetic with the bulbous ships and the kind of 1950s, 1940s retro sci-fi thing. Others think it loses some of the charm of the original. I bloody love it though. I hear Scott Murphy hates it. That's good enough for me, to be honest. I mean, if Murphy don't like it, it's probably the Mona f***ing Lisa. That's the attitude I take into my own work, actually. Would Scott like this? No? Oh, shit the f*** there. Even the community do remakes now. You may have seen the remake of Space Quest 2 by Infamous Adventures. It's not that bad, though I still can't get it to work on my Win98 machine. I mean, oh, for fuck's sake, what's that mean? What the... Darren! Darren! Oh, Jesus Christ on a bike, this does my fucking nutting up. Oh, fantastic.
Graham. Graham. My God, he's really going to town on this dude. Okay, maybe we should just get on to the interview then. Darkside Detective is a surprisingly detailed, low-res pixelated adventure game created by Spooky Doorway, a dev team located in Ireland. In it, you play Francis McQueen, the sole member of the Darkside Division, the part of the police force tasked with investigating supernatural disturbances. And as you can probably tell, it's a very humorous love letter to anything from the X-Files to Twin Peaks. The game was born out of a game jam in 2014, but it proved so popular that the developers decided to go full scale and bring the game out for a release later this year. That is, if there will be a later this year. My hopes are, well, slightly going up with Graham here. Graham, chew with your mouth closed, will you? Oh my God, he's onto the feet now. Anyway, I had the incredible pleasure of sitting down with 3 of the developers of Darkside Detective, which turned into an absolutely rambunctious and delightful event. They are husband and wife team Dave and Tracey McCabe, the writer and the coder, respectively, and the game's artist, Paul Conway, whose resume includes doing art for The Sims and Theme Park. So, without further ado, let's dive into the Irish madness with Dave, Tracey, and Paul.
Hello, I'm Dave. I write the Darkside Detective and design it with the rest of the guys.
Hi, I'm Tracey. I'm Dave's wife. I'm the programmer on the game.
Hi there, I'm Paul Conway. I'm the artist on Darkside Detective.
Missing, not able to join us this evening is Chris Colston, who also does design and does QA and audio and other useful things that none of us have the brains to tackle.
He's having a tooth problem.
Well, I think if we add any more people to this, it's going to be party. We're going to need a keg or something.
Yeah. We've got one here. Let's go.
Excellent. Well, this is going to turn into a riotous barrel of laughs. So anyway, the reason for inviting you on is, of course, that your game looks absolutely amazing. Darkside Detective is not out yet, but you can go and check it out on darksidedetective.com. There's a little playable demo or something. I hesitate to call it a demo, even though it says demo on the website, but it was actually made for a game jam originally, was it?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for saying it looks lovely. We purchased all the art we used Windows clip art for all of it.
Yes, I can tell. Very nice.
Paul's job is to take the clip art and just put it into the scene. Yeah, the game itself was made as part of a game jam a little over a year ago. The guys, it was originally Paul and Chris threw together. They were running a game jam, so couldn't partake in it. They threw together 4 or 5 rooms of an adventure game. That was Darkside. I came on board not long after that then to rewrite it, and we've expanded. We call that the pilot because we're sort of aping a TV show setup. So I came on board after that to rewrite and expand out the pilot. And then we created a whole bunch of extra cases, and Tracey came on board to help develop it all, and that's sort of how it snowballed to where we are now, a bunch of cases down the road.
Mm-hmm. And I very, very much like the television metaphor. Well, it's not even a metaphor, is it? It's actually just a construct around it, in that you have different cases as this Mr. Darkside Detective, who's
What's his name?
Oh, his name Francis McQueen. I'm quick. I have skills. Anyway, you start out the game, he's sitting at his desk, he's going through his case files, and then you can just sort of pick a case file that you want to go to. That's how the demo works anyway. I don't know if you guys kept that mechanic.
It sort of follows on from, there's a few changes in terms of specifics in terms of UI and all this, but the idea is still that we are aping the kind of 90s TV shows like X-Files, Twin Peaks, and to a lesser extent things like The Twilight Zone and such. Mm-hmm. So we've maintained that TV show vibe. It's also got obviously it's a detective show as well at its heart. So we followed through on that, and each case is a standalone episode, and we refer to each bundle of cases as a season. I think it's not quite in the same way that the Telltale games talk about seasons, obviously, but it's just we've got a bundle of cases. Mm-hmm. And they follow that episodic kind of format. The nice thing for us is that mechanically, it's sort of aimed at a different style of player, because I think adventure games are in a different place now than they were maybe in the 90s. It's a bit more casual, allows people to kind of pick up and play when they want to, head off, come back, jump between cases, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to say without giving too much away, but some of them are slightly less serious on the face of it. But I think all of them have, again, a slightly serious theme beneath the surface.
Hmm. But you and then you've got characters like Dooley, the police officer, who I've seen shown up in screenshots of later cases, and he's all over the demo, and basically no help whatsoever.
Well, we've had a lot of fun. We've expanded the relationship between McQueen and Dooley, and the two of them who are the Darkside division. So we've really enjoyed playing around with those characters, and as I say, expanding their story and expanding their worlds. But yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with the likes of Blackadder or anything like that.
Oh yes, intimately.
Yeah. So I mean,
Intimately. What does that mean?
Well, not in that sense. No. Owen Atkinson is all I'm saying.
So, well, I mean, we're kind of playing up the sharp lead and their kind of well-meaning but slightly bumbling sidekick in the Blackadder and Baldric kind of thing. I suppose this is one of the things when you play back some of the more classic. I actually feel like you've touched on a few things that from the classic adventure games I quite like. When you're playing an adventure game, or any game really, it's hard to play a kind of a bumbling idiot because you don't identify with that as much. It's not as much fun to play. It kind of feels weird. There's a disconnect between you and the character. So the adventure games I think that work best are the ones and I say this, I mean, I'm a big fan of Roger Wilco, who is a bumbling twat. But for the most part, I think very few games really pull that off, the actual bumbling hero. What I think works better, especially if you're trying to play, I don't know, I think a detective who in any way doesn't just sort of fumble his way into success. I think that having this sort of sidekick lets you feel like you're playing a competent character, but we still get to have all the laughs in there that Dooley kind of provides for us. So I think that's quite nice. And I think it's the other thing is, I mean, I think it would be clear enough that we're sort of aping some of the LucasArts kind of games and that the color palettes, the style, everything like that. But we're very much on the more light, fun side of it all. And I think like the stories that work really well are ones that have like fun characters, interesting worlds.
Oh, I agree completely, and I do agree also that playing a bumbling character, playing an idiot, is really tough. I mean, you've got a character like Tex Murphy who might be clumsy, but he's got his smarts about him. He's actually a really good detective. He just has no sense of self. And you've got Roger Wilco, who kind of is a bumbling idiot and kind of stumbles onto solutions almost by happenstance. But you've got the connection between the narrator and the player. The narrator actually conversing with you about how much of an idiot Roger is. So you still have that connection to the player. I'm not a complete idiot myself, but the character on the screen might be.
You're in on the joke. You're not the joke itself.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I'm sorry, Tracey. Could I somehow convince you to move closer to the mic? You're kind of drowning out over the all the awesome that's happening up front.
Sorry, no, I'll just shut up. Here.
I really wouldn't want you to, because the next question is actually kind of aimed at you, being the programmer and coder and such.
Sure.
So this is your moment to shine. Because one thing I noticed about the game and the interface and the engine itself was that you there's basically no walking around hiding under tables or looking in drawers and such. It's basically characters standing alone, and then you've got hotspots around, and every time you click on a door, it kind of just teleports you through it. It's you've got
developing it a lot easier than developing another adventure game. Yeah, no, it's nice. Like to be honest, when I came on board, most of they'd kind of decided what they wanted to use. They decided they were using Adventure Creator, and that was because they wanted to throw something together really quick during the jam. So when I came on board, we started using something called Dialogue System as well, and that actually it's really nice because it allows you to do an awful lot of the logic stuff in the background. So Dave can put in Lua code to navigate through all the dialogue and stuff. So I kind of push all that on him, and then Adventure Creator covers an awful lot of the basic adventure controls and stuff as well. So and then essentially I just kind of herd everything together and make sure it works, and then I do the implementation of the mini games and all that kind of nonsense. And there's a lot of stuff for actually just integrating the systems together that is required. So I kind of do that stuff. I'm kind of like a mommy in the game.
Well, it must cover a lot of bases in terms of, well, first of all, you guys are using Unity, so there's a portability issue that you don't have to contend with like Wadget Eye, who do most of their games in Adventure Game Studio. So you guys can port it not only to other PC platforms but also to mobile devices. And I have a feeling that Darkside Detective is really, if not intentionally, then it certainly does look like it's designed for mobile platforms.
We really keep that in mind, actually. Like, and actually, I've gone back and like rewritten games and stuff because they didn't function very well on mobile, and I've had to like go back and redo them. We've tried to keep all the controls really minimal and stuff as well, so that when we do port over to mobile, because it is like it's a huge market there for us, that it's as easy as possible, because you don't want to be releasing 2 separate games with different controls. You want to release the same game on all platforms if that's possible. Like.
Exactly. I mean, I've played games that, for instance, I played I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream, the mobile version, which of course was made... Sorry?
I literally just finished playing it like 2 weeks ago or something. I hadn't played it up till this point. Anyway, sorry, go on. Tell me about the mobile version.
Well, obviously the game was made before we had anything close to resembling mobile phones in any constructive sense. But going in and making that game work on a mobile device must have really been a challenge to those guys, because first of all, the screen is so much smaller, and hitting different objects in the game world is such a challenge. And they really went above and beyond telegraphing which parts are the hotspots and all of this stuff. So having a game like yours, where first of all, the graphics are nice and crisp, and the pixels are big, so the actual objects in the game world are very clearly identifiable. This seems like a game that, again, I know this probably wasn't the intention to begin with, but it does seem like it was really aimed towards serious adventure game players who also like to play their games on the go. And I really feel like this game is one of those few games that seem like they would work as good, if not better, on a mobile device than they would on a standalone PC.
Well, here's hoping.
I'm not sure if there was a question in there, but go ahead.
Tested it on mobile quite a bit, actually, and it works quite well. The decision to not have the characters move around and the resolution of the art to make it kind of so big and blocky was all really accidental from the game jam. We made the game in. Myself and Chris made the first iteration of it in. Where we took out the things we didn't need, essentially, to kind of make the demo work, and we used a very low resolution art style because it was just quicker to do on the day. But when we launched the rough demo online just a week or so after the demo, those are things that actually somehow seemed to click with users. They liked the how streamlined the play was, whereas like you clicked around the scene rather than having to click and wait for your character to move around. And it's just also the art style seemed to resonate with people as well. They just immediately appreciate it. It was like a modern twist on an old game with low resolution pixel art, but with some modern colors and effects.
Yeah, it's not your typical kind of pixel art style. Like it's really nice. Another really nice thing that just kind of accidentally pops out of it is like kind of performance and size and stuff. So like, the game can be packed down pretty small because like we're using tiny assets and stuff. We're not using many animations, and so that's like a really positive thing as well. Like when we're talking about porting to mobile, like our mobile build is pretty small. I can't remember what it is now. So
it's tiny, but to give you an idea how small the sprites are,
I scaled them up by like 14 or something.
Yeah, like McQueen's sprite is actually like 10 pixels by 30. Like he's absolutely tiny, and we have to scale him up in real time in Unity engine just to make it fit the screen properly. But yeah, you are correct. It works quite well on touchscreen devices. We done some early tests and figured out how to update the interface, or the cursor interface, and actually makes it work quite well. So our simplicity in design has actually been very helpful for us to look at it as a multi-platform game.
I try to use really small words, so we check out my
But I will say that, I mean, you say that the art style is quite simplistic, but I do feel that you guys are really giving it all that you've got in this, I'm not going to say Atari, because that's the word everyone uses, but this, very blocky, very large, pixely kind of thing. Because you actually go in and not just, draw large chunks of pixels, and then you add like HD lighting to it, and all these really nifty like glow effects and stuff that really sets it apart from what's the game I'm looking for? The other horror game that uses giant pixels.
The Last Door.
The Last Door, that's the one. Yeah. My co-host on the other podcast keeps telling me I need to play it, and I got stuck on the second episode and never got anywhere in it. Anyway, aside of that, you guys. Oh, sorry.
See Paul's art now, like it's since we started developing as well. I think he's really kind of honed in on like his style for Darkside, because some of the new art is really, really beautiful. Like I think it's gorgeous. I think nice.
Yeah, it's been fun figuring out what we can get out of the limitation of the art style. At one point when we decided like we were going to make a full game, like I actively discussed it with Chris that like should I upscale the resolution? Should we kind of go back and just reskin the thing? But just the user response to the art style kind of convinced us to keep the small, simple, tiny pixel art style. But having kept it, I've been able to zone in on what makes it work and get the most out of it at this point.
But I mean, there's this animated GIF on your development blog where you see like the progression of how a scene is being built, and you start out with the pixels and you go, that looks pretty good, and then you add another layer and another layer and another layer, and by the time I've just gone, well, that looks pretty good, that should go in the game. Then you add another layer, and then you add fog, and then and it just seems like you guys are really like pushing the envelope in terms of how much like a little set of pixels can actually do.
So we pushed all the stationery on this one.
We animate the characters.
So how long does it take to make a scene like that? I mean, for me, it would take like days.
We timed you the other day. An hour and a half was what you.
It was an hour and a half. Yeah, depends on how complicated the scene is.
Now that's to get the first one in. Like we do endless iterations on them though. So
we tend to try and add like just small animations to each scene as well, so they can kind of take a little bit of time to figure out. But generally speaking, yeah, to get the basic full color art in there is about an hour and a half.
Okay, well, geez, that really surprises me actually. But then again, it took me 4 days just to draw a walk cycle. And I guess you guys have that covered.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of games. Like I've worked on over 100 games, so like at this point, kind of something as stylized and simplistic as Darkside is really, really, really nice and fresh to work with.
Yeah, I see from your resume on the website that you worked for like The Sims and Theme Park and like big league stuff with 3D graphics and all of this stuff, and going from that into like. I don't know what resolution is it? It's like it's not even like 320 by 200. It must be like.
So it's the artwork starts out at 142 by 96 pixels.
Yowza! So yeah. going from like big league stuff like The Sims with a million by a million pixels and down to that resolution. I mean that must be like whenever like a musician sits down and decides, okay, I'm going to make a new record, they always like set limitations for themselves. Like, I'm not going to use a click track. I'm only going to use the guitar. I'm not going to use any synthesizers, stuff like that. Do you find like that's like a fun exercise in working with these limitations, or are there some times when you just go, hot damn, I wish I had like at least 640 by 480 or something like that?
There's days that you would want more resolution, but I think game art for me has always come through finding the art in the limitation. Like my first gaming gigs.
That was the most pretentious thing you've ever said.
Limitation.
My first.
Oh, come on, that was a good quote. Come on.
Which was like my resolution I had to work with was 128 by 128 pixels for all Java phones, and like you could use like 6 colors or something like that. Like so, I found like it was hard to figure it out, but yeah, as pretentious as it is, I found the art within the limitation. Or in game art and pixel art, you have to think inside the box.
The box out.
Well, okay. Sorry.
It is a joy to work with low resolution, and I think you can. A lot of what pixel art works well from is true suggestion. It's almost like you put part of the imagination in the user's head. So you make it look just enough like something that the user recognizes it and fills in the rest of the detail. I think that's why a lot of users invest in pixel art.
Dave, this is your turn to start getting pretentious because you just accused.
I'm going to tell you this instead. We spent about 3 days last week going through a list of American style swears that we felt we could put into the game, like because we were looking for something to replace like the word "git," which is a good solid. You know what someone is when you say, "Oh, he's a right git."
It's a very Irish thing to say.
But I think it's actually more English.
Is it?
Yeah, it's an English thing that's blended, but I mean.
But people wouldn't understand it.
Oh yeah, possibly. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, it's not a very American thing.
Oh no, I've watched a lot of Red Dwarf. I know exactly what "git" means.
Exactly. So we were looking for other kind of insults, and obviously we couldn't use other things like smeg and stuff like that. We were looking through the American ones, and like it took us a while. We settled on we feel like was a jerk and chump are probably okay words, but there's up out there that It's just interesting. It's interesting that when you sit down and try to create a list of
acceptable swear words,
acceptable curses.
I mean, having also watched an awful lot of train spotting, I can certainly see how you would have to sort of sit on your hands not to include the C word in sort of an endearing kind of way. Hey, Dooley, you freaking C.
Yeah, we use it as a term of endearment all the time.
I'm always talking about the ocean.
Yeah.
Y'all know this hard. We even have a Scottish man on the team, which makes it difficult.
Paul is our clean eyes.
Yeah.
There are certain jokes in the script that definitely have to be pulled out before it can go to the public.
Yeah.
For a while I debated leaving them in there hidden in the code, but I'm going to clean them out. Like a grown up.
I'm just going to do a quick roundtable question, and that's of course going to be about Space Quest. Which were your favorite Space Quest games?
For me, it's 5. The Spinal Mutation is probably, if I'm honest, it's up there in my first 5 adventure games I played, up there with Leisure Suit Larry and the Land of the Land Lizards. But I really liked it, and I didn't realize until recently how much I liked it. I was playing FTL, and I was like, oh man, and it kind of resonated that this is a bit like how I imagined the day-to-day runnings of my ship being. I loved the command of the crew and all that sort of stuff. For me, it was kind of perfect. I love the sci-fi feel. I love the kind of the riffing on Star Trek. I love the characters. I love the fact that you had a crew. I love the fact that you could go wherever you want. Well, within reason, you could go to a bunch of different planets. It felt really, really good. And it's something I'd love to see. It's something I don't think another adventure game has really hit on in the same way.
Not in the comedic sense, anyway. I mean, you got your Star Trek games where you have a crew to command and boss around.
We recently got our hands on those, so we're going to start playing them soon, but we don't actually know.
Don't say too much. We tried to control it and had no idea what was going on.
We were entirely lost.
So don't tell us too much.
I won't. I'll just say that the next generation game is the best one, and every Star Trek that sound you just heard was every Star Trek fan trying to kill me. That's a very unpopular opinion. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm derailing my own question line here.
I'm gonna have to leave it to the boys. I've never played Space Quest. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. So I'm not even gonna judge. I'll just say
a little bit of Space Quest 4 years ago, but not a lot.
It's okay. He's all the way in wherever he is. He can't come to Ireland and kill us. I'm sorry.
Okay, so trying to wrap this up in some sort of sensible way, even though I've kind of ruined that myself. Of course, thank you guys so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. This was absolutely swell, and I really, really hope that everyone will go and check out Darkside Detective once it's done, because the humor gets me right here. I'm pointing at my chest. You can't see, but I really love the writing, and I love the pixel art of it, and it's a great game. So I really want to thank you guys for taking the time to be on my crabby little show, and.
It's a really nice thing to say.
If you guys have anything to plug other than what I've just mentioned, or places that you can follow you guys, let's hear them.
You can follow us on Facebook, which is Facebook.com/Darkside Detective. You can follow us on Twitter, which is @DS_detective, or check out our website, darksidedetective.com,
which has links to all of the other things.
Yes.
And probably I have to say one of the funniest descriptions of the team that I've ever seen. So kudos on that one.
Good work, Dave.
I took a bunch of peyote. My spirit animal told me what to write.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm terribly sorry. I do have to get running. This was an absolute pleasure.
We can do the normal Irish thing where we go bye 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 bye.
And just hang up.
And you hang up while we're in the middle of it. Bye.
Thanks, Charles.
Yeah, thank you so much. I will, of course, keep in touch on Twitter for as long as you guys can endure me. And if not, you know where the blog button is.
We'll try to get a build of the game over to you at some point so you can take a look.
Oh, that would be swell. Thank you so much.
That other podcast, that Backseat Designers, is any good? Is it worth listening to?
I'm actually going to go record an episode now. Yeah, it's basically about 3 people who haven't really any real experience designing games, telling other designers what they should do and what they shouldn't do. And there's a lot of swearing in it. So please check it out.
Yeah, I'm going to give that a check. I love hearing people swear.
Start from season 3 and work your way backwards, because the first 2 seasons are kind of a mess.
I love your honesty. Yeah.
Go record your thing.
Go record some swearing.
Soon. Right.
Thank you guys so much. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that is all the time we have for the interview here, but I did manage to put up the full unedited version of the interview over on mixcloud.com/SpaceQuestHistorian, so please go check that out if you want to listen to the whole thing while there's still time, and please go and check out the game over on DarksideDetective.com. I mean, the art style is really phenomenal. It's probably the best low-res pixel art I've ever seen, and maybe there's a chance we might get to see this game after all, since it would seem like the Kingman here is finally done and ready to hopefully do something. Wow, you really licked those bones clean. Okay, so let me get this straight, your royal savageness. Cyber Cedric is the same Cedric that we know and hate with a passion, and because of said hatred, he has now run amok, and now he wants to annihilate everyone.
But first of all, you.
Yeah, but first of all, me. Yeah, okay. So, but needless to say, I'm not too thrilled with annihilation. So, is there anything we can do about that?
That's why I'm here, and why I carry this equipment, to vanquish our common enemy once and for all, and to forever trap him in the cybernetic shell where he first appeared.
Well, trap him in Stevebot. Why not just kill him and get it over with?
Kill him? Are you insane? He's the intellectual property of Activision. My latest adventure is already under selling. They would sue the feather off my adventurer's cap before you can say if Nakava Grachamper.
Point taken, but look.
I know you're hiding down there, you grotesquely buff, two-dimensional excuse for a well-written character. Come out and face the fires of Armageddon like
Ow! He still got it. That one really hit a nerve. Try to keep away from windows. If you hear him hooting, duck and cover. You may yet make it out without any severe facial burns. Fare thee well, Space Quest Historian, and thank you for the tragic yet oddly delicious meal. Wish me luck.
Jeez, my life really is the gift that keeps on giving.